Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and we're glad to see you back on the podcast. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so, could you please subscribe to the podcast? It's on 30 odd different channels, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you name it. It's out there. And it really does help us, understand the audience we're reaching and understand you better. And while you're out there, go ahead and click on globalinvestoragent.com. These are agents who are trained to work with you and I, the investor. And I'm an investor myself, obviously. And I built a brokerage company years ago specifically to serve other investors. And lo and behold, I now train all these agents all over the US and Canada, actually now the world. And so you can go online and pick one. You can see their bios and everything. And if you are an agent, man, you should definitely click on the Learn More button because the market is changing. And boy, if you don't understand how to walk the talk and speak the language and understand the terminology and the methodology, you're really shortchanging yourself. There's a world of fortune to be made by working with the right kind of investors. And one of those investors is with us today, Johnny Lynum from Tampa by way of Virginia. And so Johnny, hey, first off, thanks, man, for joining us. I really appreciate you taking your time to do this,
Awesome. Glad to be here with you, Gary.
Yep. Hey, if you could, you got a great background. And if you wouldn't mind, would you mind sharing some of your background to kind of like lead up to how you got to where you are today? And then we'll jump into maybe some examples of things you've done and some lessons and what we call meat and potatoes,
Most definitely. Yep. So Johnny Lynum grew up in Lower Alabama. I like to call it LA, but not the one on the West Coast.
There you go.
But yeah, humble beginnings. And, from, coming out of high school, I decided to accept a ROTC scholarship and went to the University of Alabama, learned a lot. But like I tell a lot of people, like coming out of college, I didn't have a strong financial literacy background. And in my book, I kind of talk about how coming out, I had to have a family member sign on my first lease for my apartment because my credit was screwed up. And, so I started my Air Force career and I've been doing that now for a little bit over 17 years. And, started with just using my VA loan, no money down, buying a residence. Then from there, learning more about real estate after, actually receiving a check back at closing. And that kind of just drove my mind, that shifted my mindset and kind of started that transformation process to becoming an investor and just really going on from there and moving around with the Air Force and started, buying more property, picking up foreclosures. And eventually in 2015, my wife and I, we started our own fix and flip business and just kind of grew. And after Hurricane Michael hit Panama City, Florida in 2018, was when we kind of started scaling up and started doing 10 plus houses a year and, picked up a multifamily in 2020 and just been going ever since.
Wow. Now, were you ever stationed at Pensacola or in Alabama? Were you lucky to be stationed?
Yeah, never in Pensacola or in Alabama. Closest I got was Tyndall Air Force Base in Panama City.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, that sounds really good. And I appreciate you sharing that. So going forward, tell us about your first investing experience. What was, you mentioned flipping. Do you do flipping and rentals too, or kind of paint a picture there? But tell us about that first one. Get some of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Sure. We started flipping and it evolved to cherry picking some rentals here and there. And with me still having my W-2 job in the Air Force, it was always flip, take the profit, and then look for more rental properties or multifamily to invest in for more cash flow was the goal and strategy. But that first one, it was a bank-owned foreclosure that we purchased off of auction.com and in Alexandria, Virginia, all places.
Okay.
Stationed in the DC area back in 2015, and we decided to make the leap. And it was a crazy story with really successful, doing really well in my military career. But I always had that longing to do more, just that entrepreneurial burn. It was like, okay, I love real estate. We've been able to use our VA loan. We picked up a couple of rental properties in Birmingham, Alabama. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a leap of faith. I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm really good at managing contractors and, negotiating great contracts for the government. It's like, can I take this skill set and do it and create your own business. And so that's what we decided to go off and do. And it took us a couple of months to get the first deal, but we got the deal done, and it was quite an experience where we actually spent over $75,000 in renovations on that house. We remodeled a pool. We had black mold where we had to totally demo the lower area, which for being from Virginia, with some of the ramblers, that you actually had the kitchen on the lower level in this house. And so we had to completely gut the entire downstairs and remodel the kitchen. And it was quite an extensive rehab, but I leaned on my contractors. I hired the right team, and we got through it. And to date, that is still one of the most extensive renovations that we have done, and we still take those lessons with us into every project that we go into.
You mentioned $75,000 renovation. What was the budget at the outset? Did you budget for 75, or was it actually end up being more than what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, great question, because that's always one of the newbie mistakes is underestimating cost. And so we had estimated it probably around 60,000. So we were over about 15K.
So 25% over. And it's funny, guys. I appreciate you being candid about it, because I want people to realize, you want to be organized, you want to be structured, you want to have a plan, you want to understand, what are the rehab requirements, what's the rehab plan, right? And but in spite of our best efforts, it almost never do we hit it exactly the way we thought. We never hardly ever get a bullseye. I think at one time I had my entire project come in within $100 of what I projected. That was the only time. Everything else was usually over. It took longer, it took more money. But the thing about real estate, guys, is it's such a forgiving commodity, because you can mess up and still make money, So that's what I like about it. It's hands-on, man. You get to see this thing, a dog with fleas that you clean up and groom, and all of a sudden you got the show dog, and you say it's the best house in the neighborhood. That's the thrill. I mean, that to me, obviously the money's fun. But to me, the fulfillment comes seeing that project. Is that the way you and your wife were too? It's like, it just jazzed you up, man, to go there and see that place making progress. And when it's done, people are lining up to make offers. Man, that's a good feeling,
It is. And that's one of the things that fall in love with the process, where that the results, they happen, they're good, but just the process of taking something that's in disarray or completely dilapidated and to take it through that transformation and create something that somebody can call home and that they're proud of. And of course you're proud of, that is really good.
Yeah. All right. So you started off doing that. Now you mentioned Northern Virginia. Have you invested in other areas, like when you were active duty? I'm assuming you had multiple duty stations. Did you invest in each of those areas, or like how did you actually do that? For example, I know some active military clients that I've had. They'll buy where they are, where they get their station, and then they'll typically either live there or rent it out. And then when they move, they'll keep the property, but they'll buy another one in the next location. I know they have certain VA eligibility, but at a certain point it stops. So what's the mechanism to allow that to happen? How do you keep that train rolling down the track when you've got only so much eligibility,
Yeah, no, great question. So, and it's kind of been a mixed bag. I'm still active duty today. And so that's one of the things that we look at, that after that first experience of investing in Alexandria, where we were stationed, we started virtually flipping in Birmingham, where my wife was from. I was familiar with the area, going to school in Tuscaloosa, not too far away. And so we started virtually flipping, and the costs were considerably cheaper for the acquisition cost, where the first house we bought was $208,000. The second we bought was $65,000. And and the renovation budget for this project was like $45K. And so it was a dramatic decrease, and from us, from a cash flow perspective, made a lot of sense. The barrier to entry was a lot less, and so we started virtually flipping there, although we were still in Northern Virginia, 10 hours away. And one of the things that I had to do, I had to leverage my realtor. She was phenomenal with being able to be my eyes and ears, and so I leveraged her on my team, and then having family members in the area that can check up on things always helped as well too. And so we literally would drive down, my wife and the kids, and we would drive down 10 hours to Birmingham, kick off the project, meet with a couple of our contractors that we wanted to bring on the project. It was a lot more estimates and bids to be had on the first one that we did there, but after that, we kind of got a good team in place. And so we literally, for the next couple of years, just did one project at a time, and did the acquisition, bought it, sold it, then started looking for the next one. And so we did that. And it wasn't until Panama City, Florida, when moving there in 2017, and that's the Hurricane Michael, because actually after I got there, about 3 months later, I got hit with orders to deploy. So I wasn't able to put a team in place immediately. But after Hurricane Michael in 2018, that was really the first time that we were able to consistently flip properties in a market that we were co-located in. And today we still have our team in place there in Panama City. We're coming up on 4 years. This spring 23 will be 4 years with our team there, and we continue to buy across the state of Alabama.
Nice. All right, cool. So you're buying properties wherever you go, but also it sounds like you're buying them also where you're from, which is Alabama, because it's familiar territory. Gotcha. Okay. By the way, I don't know if I asked this, but how long have you been in doing this, you and your wife?
Yeah, so I bought my first property in 2006 using my VA loan, and I actually used it 3 times in a row before I was able to run out of entitlement. I know you had kind of talked about that, but right now we have a total portfolio of 110 units, a little bit overvalued at a little bit over $10 million. So
nice.
It's been quite the journey.
Yeah. It's time to start having some fun, man. You know, I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding about it. Definitely have fun. But one thing I'm sure you've learned this too is, boy, you do have to play offense. You got to put points on the board. You got to get some money in the bank. But guys, you got to play defense too. And you have to, how can you minimize your tax burden legally, obviously, right? And what can you do to cut expenses like reversal assistance, things like that, so that you have some left over, not just to build for your future, but give yourself a reward every now and then. Take a vacation, man. Buy yourself your own, maybe buy a condo down at the beach just for you guys to use, that kind of thing. But let me ask you this. I'm curious because I've had when I used to be in production as a broker in my own investing. In fact, my first property I bought from someone in the Navy, and I assumed their first mortgage. But one of the things I learned is, I don't know if all military do this, but some of them, they would refinance their current mortgage with whatever property they had, say like at Langley Air Force Base or Fort Eustis or Norfolk Naval Base, that frees up their VA eligibility. So when they get to the next duty station, they can buy something there using their eligibility. Because eligibility, it's not necessarily tied to how many properties you can buy. It's more tied to how much you can borrow, right? Yeah. But have you ever done that refinance thing where you go out, you refinance your VA mortgage with a conventional mortgage to free up more? Has that been part of your strategy?
No, great question, because we actually literally just did that back in November of 20 when we moved, when we purchased our current residence that we live in right now. And so that was, especially with owning so much real estate, I tell people that the residential loan process is way more cumbersome than commercial. It was quite the process to go into underwriting, and we refinanced the VA loan property that we had used in 2013. We refinanced that into a conventional mortgage, and we were going into a VA loan jumbo loan in 2020 with that. And so it took a little bit over 75 days. It was a bank foreclosure again. And it was getting really close to where the bank was about to pull out, would not give us a second extension. And but Lord willing, it worked out and everything. But yeah, that was definitely a strategy that we used to refinance out of my VA loan of that property, so we could have enough entitlement. Because the first one was only $65K, and so my second one was $208,000, and our third property was $280,000. And so we were able to slide all 3 of those in. And so the one that was $280,000, that we had to refinance that one to gain enough entitlement to use our VA loan one more time. And so, but that's a great strategy. And knowing that it allowed us to get into this deal, whereas then now it's going to be a live-in flip essentially, where we put about $35,000 in renovations on it before we moved in. Okay.
Now, are you using other financing strategies too, like private money or owner financing? It's subject to, where it's sort of like an assumption, but if you're doing things like that too, if you don't mind shedding some light on some of that, that'd be awesome,
Sure. I've done a subject to, done a couple seller financing transactions, and we leverage on our hard money side. We leverage private money as well as hard money too. And so all of them have their pros and cons, just depending on the nature of the details for the property. And that's one of the things that I try to encourage veterans and a lot of on the residential side, civilians as well too, that you can always go up to 4 units with a VA loan or FHA loan. And whereas that on the multifamily side, that you can become an instant landlord by using a traditionally residential loan, mortgage loan. And so, so that's one side of the financing, but we leverage hard money loans at private individuals as well too, that come on as partners for individual projects, whether it's single family or on the apartment side too.
Okay. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for participating in the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Also wanted to let you know that the book Global Investor Agent is officially out in print and in Kindle on Amazon. You can get it by clicking on the link right here. If you are an agent, definitely grab yourself a copy. This book, guys, was not just written by me. I also included 8 other investor agents from around the country. And I didn't just handpick them. I literally opened it up to the entire audience, and it was first come, first serve. So you're going to get feedback from brand new agents all the way up to top 25 team leaders, some on my team, some are not on my team, with valuable insight and instructions and guidance and actual checklists to follow to not just survive, but thrive in this market. I know you're looking for that advantage, and this is it. By the way, if you are an investor, grab a copy for your agent. And for everybody, all profits from the sale of the book, Kindle and print, all go to the Healing House Foundation, 100%. Thank you for doing that too, guys. Let's get back to the show. Now, what's in your future? What do you see coming down the road? I mean, like geographically, you're looking to expand? I mean, you don't have to share all your personal visions about like with I mean, you may decide to stay in the military and do your 20 years, which is, I know a lot of folks that do that. It's an excellent strategy. But what about geographically? Are you looking at other parts of the country? Some of the best ones right now, obviously, are like Tennessee. Usually it's the Southeast, but Colorado, it's crazy. But also, like Arizona, even Washington State and Oregon, they're actually growing financially and population wise, So, but what's your take on that? Like geography, where would you like to be with your future investing,
Yeah, and I think that's a great question that we all have to think about when we look at our goals and kind of long-term next 5-10 years. I'm about 2.5 years out from retirement from 20 years with the Air Force. So that's definitely still top of mind as the priority. But looking at that, just really across the Southeast is a target of mine, just with my real estate investing community that just really I started this past year with partnering with my coaching clients and just sourcing deals for them and helping them raise money for deals. So, but I definitely see myself in the future being able to raise a fund and probably doing a $30 million private equity fund, whereas now we can align with great operators and invest in deals in those great markets, like you said, in Oregon, the Phoenixes, across the Southeast, whereas now we can just align with great investors and be able to deploy capital in certain markets and just kind of diversify from asset class and then also geographically as well too in some of those power markets.
Okay, well, let's talk about this stuff. I mean, you've got a very good, solid background, that's for sure. Let's talk about like raising capital, management, marketing, things like that, and understand you're involved with managing a development contract. Is that still active? If you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's something that I do for the day job as an acquisition officer in the Air Force, that managing development contracts and and just whether we're procuring software or large systems on a day-to-day basis. That is kind of what I do in the day job, and so I've been able to take those skills on the Air Force side and kind of directly bring those into the business side with just the project management and just management overall for just these individual projects, even though at a long distance, but being able to manage the people and the relationships that are on the ground that are making sure that things are going successful and kind of like you're saying, staying on cost schedule and performing.
Okay. Well, Now, when it comes to managing, you've got 100 plus units, like 110 units. How are you? Do you have management in all the locations where you own? Or you're doing some self management, like when it comes to um, you know, screening tenants and rent collections? Kind of fill us in on how are you actually managing what you've been able to successfully build?
No, that's a great question, because I think a lot of us as investors, we grow over time. And so one of the things that kind of really stood out to me was just the time that it takes to manage properties, and versus paying that 10% to have someone else manage it, whereas now you can focus on the strategy for your company, doing more higher paid tasks to find more deals and network and things like that. One of the strategies that we leveraged was my wife has been at home since 2012. And so after we started having kids, she's always stayed at home. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to originally keep a couple of the properties that she would help manage, whereas that she could get the real estate professional designation from the IRS, whereas the depreciation and things like that could start wiping out some of my active income from my day job. And so we still manage a handful of the properties. Now that we've kind of scaled up in 2022 with doing some larger apartment acquisitions, that it makes sense now to kind of sell off some of the one-off properties that we still own, and kind of she self-manages, because there's so much now that she can just manage the management companies and still get more than enough time, which she needs to get at least 750 hours a year to keep that designation. And so that was just a strategy that it made sense to keep some, but the majority, I have professional property management in place that takes care of the day-to-day operation.
Okay, well, that's cool. Your wife, maybe your wife may want to consider actually getting her full realtor's license. And it really doesn't matter so much what state it's in. And it might make sense to get it in the state where you have the most properties, but through that she can leverage across state lines. Certain things you can do and certain things you can't do, but it certainly would help the business. I mean, that's what happened. That was my story. I got my license, and when I got it because I was frustrated with agents, quite frankly, because on the residential side, they weren't really trained to help me. They were trained to help me buy and sell my own home, and wonderful people. My neighbor was my realtor, but she didn't know anything about investing. They just weren't taught. They weren't taught about investing unless you go to commercial. And commercial guys don't want to deal with people buying duplexes. They want to deal with big strip malls and storage facilities and stuff. So that's where my 15 minutes of fame came in. As I thought, well, I'm going to solve that problem. And I started teaching. And next thing you know, I'm traveling all over the country, teaching, 600 cities and towns in 5 years. It was crazy.
Wow.
And made good money, but boy, it's hard on the body. It's fun eating at restaurants, but when you do it every single night, you're going to pay the price. So, but all right, let's talk about this then. Timing wise, obviously the market is entering into a what we call a correction phase, and it could be, nobody knows how wide or long or deep or hard this is going to be. I mean, there's people saying it's not going to be that bad. There's people saying, no, this has the potential to be a biggie. I personally, I've been doing this for so long. This is my fifth market cycle, and I'm, I don't know if this is too much to share, but I'm on a cash basis. I have no debt, and so I'm excited. I'm kind of excited about it because it's more opportunity. I don't want people to suffer and all that, but I learned in the last recession, man, the properties are going to change hands no matter what. They're going to change hands. Properties are not going to be destroyed. They're going to go from the one person to the next person. So my role is either to be the person on the receiving end to acquire those assets, those properties, or as a broker, help make that transaction happen and earn a commission from it. That's what I learned. Our business grew sixfold in the recession. It was amazing. So that's why I used to worry back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I was like, what am I going to do now? This recession is going to hurt and blah, blah, blah. The media has a way of making us all feel really bad, So my suggestion is turn off guys, this sounds funny. I haven't actually owned a television since 2015, So the media, the news just gets you down. It's all, you never hear live at 6 p.m. good news. No, it's all bad.
Right.
And the fact is there's always the yin and the yang. Everything the media tells you that's bad, just remember there's 100,000 plus good things going on at the same time, So timing wise, that is kind of important. Do you have a strategy you're looking at that may be different than what you were using since 2006, or is it what have you learned through, like 2006 was obviously the peak of that market, and then 3 years later we're in the tank, and it goes back up again, and now clearly it looks like the direction is going the other way. But what are your thoughts on that? Any change in direction or strategy, or same strategy? If you wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit, that'd be great.
No, I think that's phenomenal. Just the years and wisdom that you have with the market. That's definitely one thing that I'm looking at. That we're looking to do more conservative deals, changing the underwriting, and I think the big thing now is buying at and understanding that interest rates may be higher, and just understanding how does that affect your cash flow. And so that's the big thing. We're looking at bird deals where we can buy, renovate, refinance, and rent it out and repeat. So those, but definitely I think the owner financing, seller financing is going to be a great strategy, and knowing how to help people that's in pre-foreclosure. So some of those strategies with the subject to is what we're looking at, and kind of gearing up our marketing and kind of focus in on some of those niches, and being able to help landlords that's looking to retire. I think it's going to be a great opportunity as well too. As a lot of baby boomers that are, not professional landlords, but mom and pop landlords that once they're getting ready to get out the game, that, just one relationship with somebody that owns 10, 15, 20 houses, and being able to step in and add value and work a win-win situation on an exit for them is going to be powerful. So those are some of the areas that we're looking at, and really just buying for cash flow. And, if the rates are 6% or they're 10%, just understanding and making sure that the asset cash flows with the market rent, and and just taking the emotion out of it, like you said, not getting into the doom and gloom with the news, and just follow the math and follow the numbers, and I think we'll be all right. And when rates get back, a little bit lower, we'll refinance and make a little bit more cash flow and keep trucking along. You got it, man. Yep.
Okay. Now, when it comes to currently what you're doing, I understand you just wrote a book, and let me grab that real quick, because I just was looking at that. It says Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies, and is that fairly recent? Tell us a little bit about the book there, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So the book was published last December, December 21, and and it just really was me capturing my story, my life journey, and also the journey of others that I have met along the way. And just really, the book was to serve as a motivation, but then also lay out some of the foundational principles around real estate investing, some of the intangibles such as simply taking action, and and getting into the game, mindset, and mentorship as well too, mastermind groups, the power of networking, and just some of those habits that other successful millionaires have leveraged throughout the centuries and created a lot of wealth. And just kind of bringing that all together from the research that I've done, and sharing the other testimonies from others that are, everyday people just like myself that, put a strategy together, started building, and you look up and you've done some great things, and, and you're able to position yourself to leave a legacy for your family. So that's what the book was really about, and just really giving some examples of how to get started as an investor, and both single family, multifamily, and also taking a look at the different financing options that you have out there at your disposal. Whether you're well off and wealthy, or you can leverage your retirement account, or if you're just a college kid just starting out, strategies that you can leverage to get going.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. We're gonna mention that before we wrap up again today too. Repeat that now. There's two other things I want to ask you about, and I know we're getting tight on time here, but I want to try to get these in because they're important. And one of them is Operation Invest. It's something you launched that helps veterans and other busy professionals invest and generate that massive income. And then also the REI Genius Network you developed. That's pretty impressive too. But would you mind touching on those two things?
Sure. Yeah. Operation Invest, kicked off in 2019, kind of that time frame in Panama City, but it's really to help people who were looking to get, whether they want to be active or passive, but to get that education piece and work with us, with our company, Operation Invest, with the homes that we were buying and renovating, and looking to get a passive return. And REI Genius has kind of spun out from that as the education arm. And I launched that here a couple months ago, actually, with the book that I started coaching, because a lot of people are reaching out and want to help and support going through the wealth building process. And so I provide coaching to kind of accelerate the journey for those that's looking for someone to kind of help guide them to whether they want to, buy a certain amount of rentals to achieve a certain amount of passive income, or if they really want to come in and build a business around real estate investing, kind of help them with the tools, the hiring process, and everything that I've went through to create my business. And just really bring a community. But the vision with REI Genius is just to bring real estate investing to everyone, and just making it at a lower level to expose to people what's not taught in schools. That I believe firmly that everyone should know these strategies on how to build wealth and be able to take control of their futures.
I agree 100%. Now, is that something people can participate in online, or is it in person, or is it both maybe, or?
Yeah, so REI Genius, so it's an online community. We're on the Mighty Network, and and it's just I give everybody a 30-day free trial. Hey, come check it out, see if it's something that you like, and it's $27 a month afterwards. And it's interesting that you brought up the realtor piece, because we have realtors that come in and give market updates to our investors from all across the nation. We have a book club where we go through a book once a month, and then also we have all sorts of events, and I do live boot camps usually once every other month, and a whole lot of other things that's going on with people sharing deals and and partnerships that's happening and being made from like-minded investors in the same city, and from people around around the U.S. that may be in an expensive market but wants to align with the operator that may be in, say, a Montgomery or Birmingham, Alabama, or a Orlando market, or a market where they can get a lot of cash flow, or could maybe have an Airbnb. And so it's been really cool to see the community take off. We're almost at 100 members now in a little less than 2 months. And,
nice.
It's just super cool just to see the impact already with people getting deals and just the knowledge that's being shared.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, let's go over some of the ways people can reach out to you. Social media links, website. So I see the website is optinvestnow.com. But how about social media? How do you like people to reach out to you and communicate? What's your most favorite way for people to communicate with you?
Yeah, most definitely. I'd probably say Facebook and LinkedIn, and just my name, Johnny Lynum, and then my website, johnnylynum.com too, is a good place where you can get to everything that I have out there, and can definitely get in contact with me. I love networking with other investors and people that's looking to build generational wealth. So,
okay, so I see that Johnny looks like .i.lynum. That's Facebook, LinkedIn at Johnny Lynum, and then YouTube. You got a YouTube channel too, Real Estate Investing with Johnny Lynum. So guys, write this down. If you're not driving, write this down. It's YouTube, Real Estate Investing with Johnny Lynum. LinkedIn, Johnny Lynum. Just look for that. It always has the ampersand in front. And then the website, optinvestnow.com. And remember the book, guys. This is also something to look up on Amazon. Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies. Okay, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies by Johnny Lynum. It's JOHNNYE Lynum, LYNUM. He's the second. So there's another Johnny Lynum out there that's also probably pretty awesome. And then the subtitle, by the way, is what they forgot to teach you in school, which is really critical, because I know I've been in real estate for, my gosh, and in less than a month, it'll be 37 years now. And I can tell you, in 12 years of grade school and 4 years of college, not one class was devoted to this subject. And yet, if you think about it, there's 142 million households in the U.S. alone, right? And the percentage of renters is increasing every single day. So this is something you can participate in. The prices keep going up and up and up. Everybody, I love people say, well, I'm going to wait and buy. And my philosophy is always, don't wait and buy and wait. Because I can tell you this, I've never really regretted buying a property. I mean, some of them giving me some real headaches, but I definitely regretted every one I've ever sold, because I'll keep watching and they keep going up in price. And I wish I'd held on to every single thing I ever bought. So John, any final words of wisdom, a favorite lesson you got from your folks or grandparents, or maybe a favorite mentor?
Yeah, I think my parting words would be, take action. That a lot of time we constantly trade our time for money without realizing that time is infinitely more valuable than money, and we don't have a lot of it left. That eventually, we're gonna run out of tomorrow. And so the big thing is to not have regrets and really focus on what's important to you, and being able to achieve time freedom to spend time with the family and friends, and support the causes that I'm passionate about, is what real estate brings. That real estate is just a vehicle, and it's a vehicle that can allow you to live life on purpose.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, everybody, if you could, this has been another great podcast, and we appreciate you listening and participating. And all we ask you is just leave a review. You can go to your favorite channel. They're all over the 30 different channels, like I said in the beginning. iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, pick your favorite channel, leave a review. And while you're out there, make sure you go visit the websites, okay? optinvestnow.com, YouTube Real Estate with Johnny Lynum.com. It's JOHNNYLYNUM, okay? And LinkedIn, same thing, Johnny Lynum. I like the Instagram one, by the way, the Military CEO. That's pretty awesome. But there's multiple ways you can get a hold of Johnny, and also go get the book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies. And while you're out there, check out REI Genius. Just Google it. And before you leave the internet, make sure you go to globalinvestoragent.com. Click on Learn More, particularly if you're an agent. This time in the economy when the market's changing, guys. I'm just telling you this because I've been a real estate teacher. I don't mean just a coach like one of the gurus. I mean literally teaching in real estate offices, 600 of them over a 5-year period. I know the business. I've been at it for a long time. The market's changing. Might as well face it and make this part of your model. Click on Learn More. Learn how to learn the terminology of working with investors and how to invest yourself. Participate in this gold mine of success and profit. And I promise you'll be grateful that you did. So in any case, you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families. Johnny, same thing for you. I appreciate you being on again. And we'll hopefully see you on another podcast in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Everybody take care, and God bless you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.